Welcome to Fintech Uncut, the quiz show with candid commentary on the biggest fintech and financial services news of the week that was. Disclaimer: this show is created purely for entertainment purposes and contains segments of sarcasm, satire, parody, and humor. Even if you don't think any of it is funny, the creators do not accept any responsibility or liability for the accuracy of any content shared and reminded you to always fact-check everything yourself. And now, it's over to your Quizmaster.
Hello everyone, welcome to the 5th episode of Fintech Uncut, the quiz with candid commentary on the week's biggest fintech and financial services stories, with the wise guy, the other guy, and Judge Lou. That is right, we have a new judge today, and we can't wait to hear to what extent she can control the wise guy and the other guy in this episode. Let's start with the first question. The European Commission predicted something or someone to be on the road of irrelevance. Who or what is it?
Well, given the state of Brexit, ever since Brexit was announced, I reckon that they've said the UK's on the road to irrelevance.
No?
It's funny because I was going to say the same thing, but I think it might be the quill feather pen, in that when I'm trying to import goods around Europe these days, I have to fill in a document called SAD, which is very appropriate. It's a single administrative document.
What?
And I discovered it's hundreds of pages of detail that you have to fill in about whatever you're trying to bring in from Britain to Europe. And it's
Like your shoes.
Well, like my shoes, but equally my Harry Potter coin, which I was trying to get for my kids. It's the administration around Europe now for moving goods from Britain is ridiculous.
It's not the quill pen, Chris, because it was all over LinkedIn this week. Lloyd still have it. Lloyd of London still have the quill pen.
I actually think
it's
it might
all
be
over
Emmanuel
LinkedIn, so you missed it.
I was going to say it might actually be Emmanuel Macron because he's French.
Alienate a big chunk of the audience. I thought that maybe it was Meta and Facebook, given the amount of fines that they've levied on them. It's totaled nearly 1 billion euros in fines. So maybe Meta and Facebook are on the path to being irrelevant. They're just going to go bankrupt from all the fines. Right?
Does anyone use Facebook anymore? I thought it was last year's news.
Old people. Rick's just put up his hand.
Yeah.
Use it a little bit, just to get my daily updates.
He's defending it now. Oh, you're the watcher on Facebook, so you don't post anything. You just watch what everybody else does.
Lurker.
Oh.
Well, the funny thing with Rick is that he's so old school, he doesn't know what Instagram is.
Oh, right. Come on, you two.
Well,
I reckon it's something to do with Bitcoin and the fact that they think it's dead. And there's actually a website called 99bitcoins.com that has shown all the people who said that Bitcoin is dead since 2009, and it hasn't died. So I think maybe they're wrong. Is that getting close?
Getting close. We're getting there. Come on, Andrew. Some of the elephants in the room with Bitcoin as well of recent news.
Well, it was quite a scathing report by the European Central Bank, I think, where they used some quite harsh language about their predictions and what they thought of Bitcoin. Is that the real story that we're talking about here, Lou?
We are, Andrew. We are. So give us your perspectives as well on FTX. Is anybody going to give us a view?
Never heard of it. Never heard of it.
What about
not one episode?
Well, what about the centrally backed digital currency, the Indian rupee, the digital rupee this week as well?
Yeah, I
thought you two were good at this.
I actually call it what the FTX, and kind of that story just rumbles on and on and on, and Sam Bankman-Fried, Freed. Was on Deal Book with Aaron Sorkin at the New York Times this week, and saying that it was nothing purposeful. But come on, it kind of just reinforces the whole idea that what cryptocurrency is a Wild West. The thing is that a lot of people don't realize that a lot of what's the bad news about Bitcoin and Ethereum and cryptocurrency doesn't take away the reason why it exists. The core proposition is still viable. It's the stuff on top that makes it stupid.
It's the scammers that keep on trying to leverage people's lack of knowledge about what it could and should be, that are giving the whole thing a bad name. So yeah, I think that the ECB might change people's perspectives slightly, but of course they have an agenda to push as well. You know, they want to say down with Bitcoin,
central banks' positions with CBDCs.
Up with CBDCs, that's it, and the euro. You know, digital euro, digital pound, they're all about CBDCs.
And it's all about the turf wars between all of them.
All right, Lou, I think we're running out of time, and these guys try to impress each other with valuable comments on Bitcoin. But what's the score?
I could see that. So I was just about to call that. So the story was, in fact, the strongly worded blog post from the ECB, but really the focus of the value of Bitcoin, or the value of digital currency, plummeted from a peak of $70,000, stabilizing at around 20,000, but has since even fallen even lower since the collapse of what the FTX, to coin Chris's phrase. But the authors say that even this stabilization is likely to be false. So that is the real story. To be honest with you, I'm going to give that one to Chris. He was all over that. And he even added further articles that sort of, it was like a tsunami of ants once he started, wasn't it? With all these other bits coming in. So that one goes to Chris. Over to you, Rick.
All right. Judge Lou, if you like, you can also like mix with the scores. If you think like Andrew deserves a little bit, you could also say like, we give Chris a 4 and a 1 to Andrew or whatsoever. Just for your information for future questions.
I got a 10, by the way. I think I got a 10 and Andrew got a 1.
He's been trying for a 10 for 3 episodes. So
no, it wasn't that good, Chris. It was a 1.
All right. Question number 2. Question number 2. What's the one ingredient investors finally discovered as an essential piece in the due diligence of a company before investing in it?
Is it that the company has a plan?
Sorry?
Is it something to do with that the company actually has a plan, and that the founder understands what profit is and how a balance sheet works?
Basically, a basic understanding of accounting, surely. I mean, Chris, you had mentioned it in the first, in your the earlier question with SBF, old Sam Bankman-Fried, whatever, trying to pass off the whole FTX thing as an accounting mistake. That was his latest claim. Oh, sorry, we made an accounting mistake and we didn't really mean to commingle up funds.
No. No accounting mistakes. We've got a bit of a clue on the screen here.
Well, grey hair. There we go. It's got to be grey hair. I mean, if you look at it, the 3 founders of the fintech called Pipe, they range in the age between 29 and 34. All 3 of them resigned this week, all at once. And in the announcement, they stated their inexperience is the reason for all 3 of them resigning at once. The fintech is 3 years old. It was doing well.
No, I agree.
No, this is genuine. It's a true story. This isn't even, and I'll put a link in the show notes just to prove it. This is what they said. They said they needed more grey hair around the table.
Well,
right, but is that an answer?
This year is that you've got so many companies that have been doing really well with getting funding and PR, but now they're facing a recession and they're struggling with the idea that there's a recession because they've never had one before in their lifetime, because they're like in their 20s or early 30s, and so facing a global recession, people who have a little bit of grey hair are valuable.
No. As I said, there's a clue around here. I've had grey hair since I was 17.
That's a lot of grey hair, Chris. I have a little grey hair.
No, look at Andrew. It's all grey hair. And
So
Lou, I'm sorry, but you've got a little bit there too.
It's all great. I've been all
That's
great
not a
since
bad
I was
thing.
17. But
So the
let's
clue-
talk about where investment is going.
Exactly.
So I think it was really this particular story was very positive. As a husband who has wife, I've got 2 daughters and 4 sisters. For once, it was positive news around female founders, that the investments, there was a large chunk of investments that flowed into female founders in fintech over the last year. Unfortunately, not nearly enough. And you know, the smart money is looking for female founders and at least more women on the boards, greater diversity and more women in senior positions. So on behalf of the ladies in my family, I thought that this was a really, really positive story,
I
if
think
that's
more
the
than
story
that,
being referred to.
And Lou, I'd be interested in your comments because I know Janine quite well, who's running Innovate Finance, and equally a lot of friends like Anne Bowden and Claire Carmgen, Catherine Petralia at Cabbage, Christina Gianquera at Newbank. I mean, there are a lot of very strong women in the fintech space, but maybe there should be more.
Yeah, there is. I mean, it is about, while some high profile funding has gone to female-led businesses, we still aren't seeing the investment go into, well, not just of fintech female founders, but actually more of the diverse groups, more of the vulnerable groups, more of the diverse segments, and more of the people who are looking at some of those areas. So we're still only seeing, it said 6.5%. I think it's actually a bit less from some of the work we've been doing in Innovate Finance around. We still aren't seeing that shift yet around where funding is going to female founders. And then it gets even worse when, as I said, when you start to look at more of those diverse groups. So this story was about, it's still men rule the roost, I think was part of the headline. And actually, we need to do more. I was at an event yesterday, this is close to my heart. I've been in FS for 30 years. When do we stop talking about it? Because we've put action behind it. So
it's also what I commented on. This article as such was not a big news of the week, but it was definitely worth the attention because we need more women. Having organized an event on Mirrors of Society a month ago, I better understood also the importance of, as a company, your employees need to be capable of representing the audience you want to talk to or you want to build products and services for, because if you can't represent them, then how do you understand how they are feeling, how they are acting, and what problems they're having? And of course, most fintech financial services, if it's for mass audience, that means that you're also looking at women. And that means that you need a much higher representation also at the top, the decision makers of those companies, to ensure that you can become a proper mirror of society.
Yeah, but I think there's 2 sides to this, which is it's not just women, but it's diversity, it's inclusion.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
The great thing that I see about fintech is that I see so many more fintech founders succeeding from all ethnicities and all parts of the world, and both female and male, and black, white, and in between. And I think that's the fantastic thing about the network, which is we can give everyone the opportunity, and it's just up to us to take it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I'm actually going to give that one to Rick, if I'm honest, because we've got to get to a point where, businesses mirror the customers they serve in terms of the depth of its diversity and thinking. But this is about, we have more to do better, to get money to these groups, whether they're female founders, but actually driving into some of these areas where we've still got big gaps.
And you may have a comment on this, Lou, but what really gets me is like old style banking is still very much based around, are you a Mr., Mrs. or Ms.? And they don't recognize the LGBTQ and the whole diversity landscape that we're seeing out there today.
Yeah, and just on that, and then we need to move on, is we need to make sure that we create role models that everybody can see themselves in. So we're almost in danger of creating a stereotypical female bank leader or financial services leader as well, that people don't go, well, actually, I don't see myself in that. And there's some fantastic talent in our industry, but we do need to move on. I'm really sorry. So Rick scored 38 points. Andrew scored a massive 2. And Chris came in just at the end there on a couple of sentences that took him to 17.
Wow. I may just win this
You can't,
episode. And I'm not even
you
playing
can't
it.
give Rick any scores. He's just the quiz guy. I mean, it doesn't count.
I'm getting the hang of this now, guys. I'm getting the hang of it. I like
I was
it.
going to say, we might have the first show with a
It's better
Quizmaster.
than chairing.
All right. Round number 2, the controversial round. Question number 1. Chase is planning to cut a big chunk of his business. What is it?
That's Andrew.
You
Gotta
really
be.
got me worried there, Rick, because Chase vodka, potato vodka, is one of my favorite vodkas. So I was really worried that, Chase was cutting out its vodka business. What the hell's going on? And I don't drink gin, so I wasn't interested in the gin side of their business.
Yeah,
No?
I mean, this wouldn't be good news in Poland because we all drink vodka in Poland, which is where I live, for those who didn't realise. But I thought maybe it was, is it doing banking?
Exactly. I was about to say, have I got news for you? It's a fintech and banking podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that would have affected a lot of, money.
It would have
flows
done.
and
There would
things
have been
like
an
that.
economic flow off that, Andrew. I was
Yeah.
with you.
But-
You're asking what Chase is going to get out of it. Is it out of allowing criminals to launder money through their network, for example?
Ooh, that would cut a huge chunk of their business, huh? Oh,
Not that.
As if they would allow that. As if they would allow that.
Well, I
I mean,
mean,
No, come on, you two. We're talking
with a
about
name like
fintech,
Chase,
we're talking
I actually-
about. Oh,
with,
Chris.
with a name like Chase, I think they should actually have a brand Wile E. Coyote, because it's the wolf that always chased Roadrunner around all over the place in the cartoons. Beep beep. I think that would be a great brand for Chase. Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah, do you think it has anything to do with credit cards? Just saying.
Well,
Potentially, maybe.
Watch out, guys.
Who wants
Who's
a credit
about to
card?
win the game?
well, originally, I thought maybe they were cutting their mortgage business because of the whole, WEF predictions around by 2030, we would own nothing and be happy. If you are familiar with that controversial statement apparently made, and I'll put a link in the show notes about that. But I realized it wasn't their mortgage business. It is indeed to do with the fact that Chase are proposing literally to get rid of their entire credit card business. Now,
Yeah.
now the way that they're doing that is nothing new. It's pay by bank, basically. Loads of places are doing that. But this is really aggressive, the way that Diamond is going around this in terms of saying, yeah, we are going to be literally disinvesting from credit cards altogether. And this is a full-scale cannibalization that he's proposed.
Chris, anything you want to add?
Well, I guess the question is, do we really need credit cards? Because we've got Apple wallets and mobile wallets. Do we really need cards anymore? I haven't used a card in Poland for the last 3 years since the pandemic started. It's like I don't need to because I've got contactless on my phone. So, why do we have cards?
And it's not the form factor. It's the fact that with a card you've got rolling credit. So all that you need to do is replace the rolling credit with something like a flexible overdraft or something like that.
Buy now,
And
pay
then
later.
It would work. Well, buy now, pay
But
later.
what does that mean to Visa and MasterCard?
Well, exactly. That's remember last show we talked about Kodak moment? There it starts becoming more
Don't remember that.
more relevant. Yeah, I won't bring up Kodak moments just in case Chris takes it.
What is a Kodak scenario? Is that what? No.
You are indeed right. It is. Chase is working on a direct payment system that will allow funds to be routed from a customer's account directly into a merchant's. So it will bypass the credit card processing networks. The new system, though, is being referred to as pay by bank product. And I think many of you have discussed outside of these podcasts what the future of money looks like. and that cards potentially or plastic doesn't exist. In fact, I think you've all spoken about that. What I did find though really amusing in this article was the quote that Dimon said, "If I hear that any of you aren't sharing information with each other or you're hiding information, you're fired," as he said to his 15 gathered executives in New York. But you are indeed right. I'm going to call that one a draw. I think there was definitely 0.7 of a point each, not even one. Sorry, lads.
I think, Lou, what's relevant in with that quote is that you have two opposite silos in the bank, one building the pay by bank and then the other one managing the credit cards. And so they're competing, and it's in that context that you have to see the element of sharing information, and if you're not, they will fire you, because you have to think in favor of the bank as a whole and not your silo.
Yeah, Mr. Quizmaster, I have to ask, I think our judge is being a bit mean this week.
But you could apply that quote, Rick, to any organisation that works in silos in financial services.
Oh, tell me. Yeah.
Because they've all got, I mean, everyone is data rich, but they're not data centric in how they share. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Chris is just edging ahead at the moment, but Rick has actually won the game already. So anyway, moving on to number 4.
Rick, I keep telling you, Rick doesn't count.
I'm sorry, I forgot the rules.
Can we mute him? Can we mute him?
Sorry.
All right, question number 4. Never waste a good crisis. What should more institutions adopt, according to a few opinion makers on forkast.news? I don't know where that website came from, but
good one, Rick, I think. Good luck, Andrew and Chris.
I mean, maybe institutions should adopt more children. They should give and invest in children from every nation where there is strife and war and problems. I mean, that would be really good. And I personally, actually, I adopt animals. So I have 2 orangutans and 2 rhinoceros and a few more. But
and the pandemic puppy.
My orangutans.
Is there a mute button?
And so you are my rhinoceros.
The Pablo Escobar of Poland.
Right, muting Chris and Rick. On to Andrew. You could take this one really easy, Andrew. You could go ahead here.
Well, given the looming cost of living crisis and the spiraling increasing costs of food and everything like that, I would have thought that something like forkast.com would be predicting that people should adopt breatharianism as a diet. Have you heard about breatharianism? There's a Netflix film called The Wonder. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
It's where you your
Good
diet is literally fresh air. Because you can't afford anything else.
I want meat. Oh, sorry. I've just adopted an orangutan to eat it. Okay.
Don't mute me, Chris.
By the
way. No, it's a better technology we've all talked about for 382 years. There's your clue.
Quantum computing?
No. Really?
Well...
maybe blockchain.
Possibly.
Let's try that. Blockchain.
Blockchain and cryptocurrencies.
Well, even with all the debacle of Bankman-Fried?
Yes.
I found this article, it was really strange because it was also commingling a whole lot of concepts together. You can't talk about blockchain and cryptocurrency in the same breath in terms of adoption or use cases, because they're 2 completely different things. Cryptocurrencies are built on top of blockchains, and some of them actually aren't built on top of blockchains. But blockchain itself, to me, has got potentially a large number of valid use cases. Cryptocurrencies, well, if we're talking about non-stable coins and CBDCs, not so much. I still firmly believe that they're very, very speculative. But the article was lumping them all together, saying companies must adopt more blockchain and cryptocurrencies, like really, take advantage of the crisis now and jump in. I'm thinking, wow, is that just like shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic or whatever? And it was very interesting because in this same week, Maersk has just announced that they will be discontinuing TradeLens,
Oh,
which is their blockchain-enabled global trade platform, and that has been held up as a success of the blockchain industry for a long time.
Why wasn't that in our show? Well, it is now, but
it's literally only just come in. That was breaking news, and I thought that's really big, because that particular use case was like the poster child of the industry.
But that goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is you've got to separate the technology from what's happening in the markets. So BlockFi and FTX and Terra Luna, Celsius, and all the collapses in the crypto exchanges and lending platforms is nothing to do with the technology itself. The technology itself is still incredibly viable and something that can be incorporated into mainstream finance.
I think, Andrew, I mean, your additional snippets there, I mean, that's taken it, hasn't it? I mean, that was just, I mean, you were on about 3 points, but took it up to about 35 with that one. I mean, it was just, I mean, honestly, nobody expected that either. I mean, it just came from nowhere. But you are absolutely right. This is about blockchain, and it is about, they were talking about in learning the lessons from 2022, and institutions should not be distracted from the possibilities of what blockchain technology, but the article coupled with crypto, can be a catalyst for. However, I do think there's a bit in here is, how do we start to talk about this stuff in a way that's accessible for people? So at the moment, the language around blockchain and even crypto, cryptocurrencies, digital assets, centrally backed, we talk about it in a way that's reserved for the few, and yet we think some of the innovations within these areas could actually help empower people. But that one definitely taken by Andrew, and it's a bit neck and neck now. Andrew and Rick, neck and neck. Oh, he's off mute. So no, we got him back. Brilliant.
Chris, you've got
Chris.
2 left to claw it back.
All right, guys, we're running out of time. And we have one more round to go. 2 questions. So if I were you, Chris, I would give the serious answer from the start. The WTF round. Not only Chase, but also HSBC is planning massive disinvestments. What am I talking about?
My buzzer wasn't working.
That was Chris sabotage you.
Please don't tell me that they're going to be disinvesting from having their fantastic baristas at events. Top tips for anybody attending a financial services event. Find the HSBC stand. They've always got the best baristas and the best coffee. Please tell me that they're not disinvesting from that.
I actually thought it might be that they are disinvesting in any new fossil fuel projects, but oh no, my bad. It makes them lots of money, so they're never going to stop investing in that, are they? Ooh.
No.
They have just disinvested from Canada. Do you see that they've sold their Canadian operation for £8.4 billion to
well, who wants Canadians? Because they're also French. No, really. I mean, come on.
Oh, with a European audience.
Put Chris back on mute. Right. Now, guys, this is about, let me give you a couple of clues. Community, access to cash. Come on.
They're building an ATM network.
They're killing
If only.
It's about disinvestments, Chris.
I'm sorry. They're shutting down an ATM
either.
network. Oh no, they're shutting down a branch and an ATM network. That's probably what it's about.
They are. That's the exact article, Chris. So give us your perspectives on that, guys.
Well, I said in the 1990s that most, I'm showing my age, but that most banks' networks are about 80% fat, in that they'll close 1 in 5 branches by sometime in the future. And that's now becoming a reality. And so I think HSBC are closing about a quarter of their branch network. But over the last 20 years, most banks have closed 60, 70% of their network, the physical network, because everyone's using mobile and online.
What I did find quite surprising, humorous in the article was the fact that they said that they would be providing iPads and tools for their customers to help get them online. But I think, Chris, Rick, sorry, you had a very cutting remark about the fact of providing tools won't really help with closing branches, right?
Digital inclusion is not so much about providing the tools, but helping people understanding how to use those tools in a responsible way, especially when it comes to financial services and all the troubles we see these days on fraud, etc. You can't just provide tools and think that the problem solved that way. It doesn't work that way. Financial services are extremely difficult, which is why we have such a limited number of listeners. That's not because it's not a fun show. It's definitely a fun show, but most people outside financial services don't understand financial services. So how do you expect them to use a tablet for financial services, especially these people that are used to going to branches for it and don't know how, probably don't even know how to work with a tablet?
Yeah, but it's also small businesses in local communities. I mean, this is a subject close to my heart because I work with a fantastic fintech that is trying to solve for access to cash. So the One Banks team, but in terms of this is about, and particularly in these types of environments, it's not necessarily a branch that is the answer, but it's how do you still ensure that people have access to financial services in a way that they understand, and you don't create digital exclusion, which some of these tools do actually provide. So they don't enable, they don't enable you to use them because people, as Rick says, don't know how. They don't know how to get onto onto online banking or whatever else, and maybe don't want to. And then you've got small businesses where we need to grow those communities that can't get access to services that they need. But this is indeed HSBC closing 114 branches. But I agree with Chris, this wasn't about, I don't think this is about branches, but the services that you then leave or use that still enable communities and help people get onto those financial services. But we've seen it as a pattern over the last few years. But I think, we'll probably see more of this still happening. But I agree with Rick entirely. Providing the tools doesn't solve the problem, but it's helping people.
As you agree with me, Lou, you should give me the most points.
Yeah, I am actually, but Chris, I am. I mean, Rick did take it again, but probably for the first time, Rick's going to win the quiz. But that did go to Chris with another 32 points and Andrew 28 on that one. Honestly.
But that means that Andrew is far before me. I only have 39 in total. Anyway, we have one last question.
I don't even know why you have any points, Rick.
I'll explain you after the show. One more. So last question, and that's definitely, I mean, that's for me the best article so far in the WTF round. So here comes my question. To get closer to their young voters, the European Commission set up a new initiative and massively failed. What did they do? And to give you a hint, it's not entirely fintech finance related.
It's not.
But it's absolutely fun.
I'm buzzing in early. Sorry, I'm buzzing in. Because can you tell me a EU initiative that succeeded?
Brexit.
Oh,
that's not an EU. That was a British initiative. But when I look at most EU initiatives, they struggle, and a lot of it's to do with the border discussions, and there's no standardization, and everything is a bit sort of flaky. So tell me one that succeeded.
Well, I thought that that they would be taking a lead from what Japan did earlier this year, because Japan realized the tax implications of the fact that the youth in Japan are drinking a lot less. So therefore, Japan is losing out on a huge amount of booze. So of the tax, sorry, from booze. So they released a huge big initiative trying to get youngsters to drink more. So maybe the EU Commission put on a big party to try and get them to drink more Belgian beer, because Belgian beer, Rick, I mean, you're from Belgium. We all know the beer.
Andrew, on a side note, did you get sponsored by Chase Vodka today?
I said Belgian beer. I didn't say because it's EU.
But you got to realize that young people don't really drink like old people, like you, Andrew. And so to get close to young people, it must be something to do with gaming. That's where I would.
You're going down the right route, Chris, sort of there, but not quite.
Did they get on TikTok and fall flat because they only had dad jokes like Chris?
Not right, TikTok. Getting warm. They threw a party. Come on.
One more chance. We're running out of time here.
They threw a party in the metaverse that cost them hundreds of millions.
Not hundreds of millions. No.
And no one turned up.
It was hundreds of millions. 300. It was only 387,000. It wasn't millions, but yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot less than millions. But
yeah, but like most things in the metaverse, at the moment, whatever you're doing, no one turns up because no one's interested.
Yeah,
we live in the real world. That there is another world that will develop eventually, but we're far away from it.
Yeah,
we're still on YouTube, for example.
Yeah. I love the idea of the metaverse, and check out metaversebank.com, which is me, because that's like
gratuitous plug there.
Gratuitous plug, but that's where I'm investing. But it's going to come one day. But it's a bit like the holodeck on the Starship, Enterprise, and it's just fiction at the moment. It's not reality. And
so you are right, Chris. And sort of right, Andrew, €387,000 to throw a party in the metaverse with dancing avatars to house music on a tropical island. And do you know how many people turned up? 5.
Which probably 4 EU representatives.
It was the people running the island. But I think in terms of a spokesperson for the Commission said that the promotional post purpose was to increase awareness of what the EU does on the world stage among 18 to 35-year-olds. But I think it will get there. So that's
what they didn't know is that it was me, Rick, and Andrew that were the first 3 in a row. So.
No, we did know.
And we're not really 18 to 35-year-olds. Well, obviously,
you are in the metaverse,
and our avatar is
exactly. Rick, that's over to you, I think.
All right, Lou, we are at the end of our show. Can you share with everyone who scored the highest?
I can. So we have Chris in 60.7 points. Don't ask me how or why. And Andrew on 65.7.
Yes!
He stole it at round 4. Just that little extra bit of a snippet.
And I didn't even get close, actually.
Come the revolution, Andrew, first against the wall. I'm warning you.
All right. We're at the end of our show. Thank you, everyone, for being here in the show, of course. Wise guy, smart guy, and Judge Lou. And of course, also everyone for listening. I cannot wait for more international fintech news coming up soon. Don't forget to subscribe on whatever channel you're on. This was the 5th episode of Fintech Uncut. We hope to entertain you, your colleagues, your friends, your connections and followers, neighbors, cats and dogs, and more very soon again. Thank you very much for listening and watching. Bye-bye.